And we are officially back at you with another live version of the Nightcap, brought to you as always by our friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. You can go check them out right over the river in Dayton, Kentucky. Be sure to tell them pump it up when you place your order either in person or on the phone. They deliver anywhere in the 275 loop. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com for everything Galactic. You can get your sauce, you can get your tendies, the chicken sandwich. Apparently, the Bearcats are kicking off here as Team Ticker is making that well known. But without further ado, Chad is not here. We do have Keegan here. I'm going to mute real quick if you want to filibuster while this finishes up.
92-56 win for the Bearcats. It was a really just interesting atmosphere altogether in terms of the game and all the people that were there. Kenyon Martin, Corey Blunt was there. Coach Huggins was there wearing red, notably, which I'm sure me and Aaron will get into. And then there was the announcement about Jason and Travis Kelce's hosting a New Heights podcast episode at Nippert Stadium on April 11th. The spring game is that Saturday, the 13th. So that weekend has the potential to be a pretty exciting weekend for UC fans, UC players, maybe even recruits if that's a live period. I'm not sure if it is or not. But yeah, it was a big day for Cincinnati. Probably their best overall performance in terms of not really doing anything bad at all. Even Coach Eilert said, I don't think there was a stat that they didn't dominate us in after the game when asked about what UC did well. But yeah, a lot of good stuff happening today for Cincinnati. And it was just a day where I was constantly getting on my phone and trying to film something. What did you think of Huggins being there wearing red?
I laugh anytime Bob Huggins is in Cincinnati because I don't know that he's there in support of the program. I think it's legitimately only for self-serving reasons that he shows up to anything anymore in Cincinnati. That said, he wore red. Okay, it is what it is. I think that's honestly, I think it's kind of a shitty move on his part. That he did wear red as he's there in support of, I guess, Cincinnati in front of a team that struggled the entire game for the most part that he recruited. And I don't know. I just, it was wild to me.
That's what I said to someone. I was like, doing that in front of an entire team that you literally recruited to come play at West Virginia, and then they have the worst collective seasons of probably their basketball careers, just how bad it's gone for West Virginia so far. It's an interesting move. But yeah, do you want to get into the Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce announcement? That's a trip you got to make from Athens.
Oh, I was coming to the spring game anyway. I haven't missed a spring game since I've been covering. So I don't know that I'll be missing this one, especially with what'll be happening in and around the program. I think that's pretty awesome. I've known about it for a little while now. So I'm glad the Cats. I'm shocked that you didn't know.
I had no idea.
I'm glad the Cat's out of the bag though. So it'll be cool, especially if we're able to get Jason on either before or after on one of the shows, to be able to kind of discuss either what he's looking forward to or how it went. Either way.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It's interesting, like what they're gonna do in terms of a setup, because you feel like they can very easily get a stage set up on the 50-yard line at Nippert and then just kind of figure it out from there. But there's so many opportunities and so many possibilities for what they could do with that set for that podcast. But I think that's going to be, pending weather, that could be a pretty packed house to watch that podcast.
even if weather's bad, all you do is move it inside Fifth Third, which honestly is
Yeah.
probably a better option anyway.
Yeah. I have apparently they wanted to do it, or like one side wanted to do it in Fifth Third, one side wanted to do it on Nippert. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But I had, and you'll think this is funny, I have hundreds of Taylor Swift fan accounts in my mentions, retweeting, like following me. And then I made a joke tweet saying I did not think I'd have Taylor Swift accounts boosting one of my tweets. That was not on my career bingo card. That tweet has like 300 likes, like 20,000 views. It's insane.
I would just be fury blocking all of them.
There was a part of me that was like, am I safe? am I okay? Do I need to do something about this? But yeah, so
it does make you wonder if there's anything else that could be happening while they are in town. So
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. Apparently that was Chad teasing that weekend's going to be like really, really fun. And that was one big part of it. And then you have a brand new football team that's going to showcase their talents on that Saturday for the spring game with a new quarterback, new playmakers. That could be a good 3-4 day span for Clifton.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in my head, it's been quite some time since Shaq Washington's name went up. So
yeah, could be.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
That's funny.
In any case, what was the ceremony like before the game for honoring the seniors on senior night?
It was awesome. The guys were like the players themselves. They were kind of making a tunnel extension of the tunnel that they came out of, and they were just going crazy for everyone. They went crazy the most for Landon Long and Chase Kirkwood. Those guys, they were watching their highlight tapes, and it's funny that half the highlight tapes of both of them is them making jump shots and warm-ups, just like swishing a mid-range jumper in warm-ups. But the creative team actually did a really good job on that. But it was awesome. Wes like almost started crying. He actually had to wipe away a tear after the game in the presser, talking about Odie and talking about John. And he talked about this at the radio show, but Odie actually asked to be put on the scout team when Aziz and Jamil were ruled eligible, because he like recognized what his role was. He knew his minutes were going to get cut significantly if he was going to play at all in a lot of games.
Sure.
So he went to Coach Miller and just said, hey, I want to be put on scout team if that can help. And Coach Miller said after today's game, he said that's one of the most outstanding things that he's seen as a coach. And then he started getting teary-eyed talking about Odie and then talking about John. Had to stop himself from talking, actually. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, those are two guys that they paint the Wes Miller era in terms of who you think about coming in, and you know, now it's moving on with the guys that kind of stood on their shoulders when it was a struggle in year one and year two.
The framed jerseys that they got with the pictures of the players in the corners, personalized for each one of them, was fantastic. Super huge hat tip to whoever did the framework for those boxes.
Yeah, those frames are cool. I just think the Jordan jerseys are so cool. Like, I don't think a lot of people talk about how cool the black Jordan jerseys are. The red ones today were even cool. I love wearing red on senior night. I just remember like the vintage, not vintage, but like when SK and Cashmere were wearing the reds on senior night, they had the claws down the sides. Those are probably some of my favorite jerseys in any sport, any level. I think those are awesome. I love those.
Yeah, those are pretty good for an Adidas product. Adidas. I don't feel like Adidas had a ton of wins, but
Yeah.
those were W's.
Yeah, but it was all really cool. It was a lot of joy from the team and from the benches, from the players who were graduating and moving on. So it's just set the tone for what was a really, really joyful game for them on the court as well as it was before.
And as you're kind of alluding to, Cincinnati gets to put their first real big 12 ass whooping on somebody, and it comes in a redemption game against West Virginia, this time on their own home court. 92-56, the final, as you already stated while the fight song was playing on my team ticker. But this game was close until it wasn't. And then there was no looking back by this Bearcat team. A fantastic night by the seniors. Everybody scored. You don't necessarily see that in every senior game. I don't know when the last time was that happened for the Bearcats, if I'm being completely honest, because I can't imagine that that's a often thing where everybody literally gets points on the board. But this one, great day. Again, for those seniors, John Newman with 14. Odi Oguama, he had the flush, the angry, I haven't gotten to play enough this season, but I'm here, damn it. Flush by Odi. Landon Long gets the falling over, the falling away three as he's fading left there. And then Chase Kirkwood with the free throws for his 2 points. But all the seniors on the board.
That was Landon Long's three was one of the louder fifth third moments I've heard this season. It was insane. And then Kirkwood, he was trying everything he could do to try to get any space. And Pat Suemnick for West Virginia was not playing around. He was not going to let a walk-on score on him. But then he gets fouled and gets to go to the line and shoot free throws. But yeah, it was just points off turnovers. It was defense and offense. They were converting from three at a pretty nice clip. I think the turning point of the game was when it was tied 19-19 and Josh Eilert gets a technical. Kirk Risa gets a technical a minute later, and then that's a 6-point swing, 25-19, and then you go on a run to take a pretty big lead near the end of the half, and then West Virginia needs a 7-0 run to kind of, I think they cut it to like 7 or 8 at the half.
Oh, no, I can tell you exactly what it was because I had the spread at 7.5, and I didn't get it on the ridiculous layup that they allowed to cut through their defense to cap off that 7-0 run.
He took a few steps there.
Just saying, a ridiculous
how many steps he took, but he took a few.
A ridiculous layup to get that to cap off that 7-0. So it was 8. It was 8, and I missed by a half point. Thanks, West Virginia. I knew I should have taken it at 6.5, and I waited too long. In any case,
yeah. Then they just come out the second half, and it was just a lot of the same. It was just complimentary basketball. They were making a ton of plays defensively. They were getting steals. They were forcing bad West Virginia turnovers. Now, a lot of it was getting help from the Mountaineers. They played really, really bad. Even in the game after, Josh Eilert was asked, how do you kind of motivate this team right now, or have they given up? And it wasn't even a question that made him mad, really. He just went, yeah, they've been inconsistent in their mindset the entire season. And I've asked for consistency, and I haven't been able to get it.
Imagine what's going through his head, though, at that moment. As you know, there's no way he didn't know that Bob Huggins in the house wearing red in front of this team that should have been his, that is not responding to Coach Eilert. What a shit sandwich you were literally handed in that moment.
Yeah, I almost asked, like, what has this year done for you? Like, how hard has this been? But he was he was.
I don't know if he would have given you. I don't know if he would have given you the real answer to that or not. Because if he's going to give you the real answer, he's going to be put on some kind of watch.
Some kind of watch.
Hunter, thank you for the donation. That was fun. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Hunter. But I thought, what did you think of Day Day's alley oop from Dan?
Oh,
That was one of the
so
plays of the year.
I think that it was honestly probably better than his windmill. The degree
Yeah,
of
oh yeah, yeah,
difficulty, the
yeah.
degree of difficulty higher. In the moment, it was on senior night. Granted, neither of them are seniors, but just the environment and when it came, and as it was part of this drubbing they're putting on a team that beat them earlier when they probably shouldn't have.
No,
As you see what is going on with this West Virginia team. But yeah, I think it was my favorite dunk of the year. As we are talking about dunks, this team finishes 9 for 9 on dunks today. Um, that's I think the most dunks they've had in a game. 12 of 15 on layups, which is the highest percentage that I can recall seeing in conference play anyway. And between the two, to go 21 of 24 is rather impressive for a team that does not usually make it at this type of high percentage in the paint.
yeah, and I agree that it was better than the windmill because like they had a defender in between them, and
Yeah.
Dan said he was going to pass it to Day Day and then get it back, but then like to have the confidence of someone that has missed so many wide open dunks trying to like do too much to the point where Wes Miller is saying he needs to stop dunking and laying it in, and then to be going down the court and go like this at the half court line to Dan and then just one hand slam it. Oh my gosh, that was unreal. And Dan talked about it after. He was like, I did not think I was going to be lobbing him that ball at all. But Day Day's just, he's had his hair on fire, and how him and Jizzle have played lately has been big time. And I know Wes said it at the radio show. Jizzle's turned into a sophomore already on offense, but defensively, he's still a freshman. So, that's going to be important if they want to try to do something in the Big 12 tournament.
Well, assist numbers were way up today as the team finished with 23 assists. As you were talking about, Day Day with his hair being on fire, he has 7 points, 3 of 8 from the field, not great. 1 of 5 from behind the arc, also not great, but on par for his season as he finishes the regular season roughly about at a 20% clip from behind the arc. Not great. That said, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, only 2 fouls, 5 steals. A hell of a day across the stat sheet for Day Day.
No turnovers either in 32 minutes. Him and Jizzle both combined for no turnovers.
Plus 33 for Day Day. Plus 33 for Day Day.
I mean, it was just a lot. They were getting out in transition so much because they were turning over West Virginia like in bunches. And it would just be like they would drive in and UC would give West Virginia the Iowa State treatment of just smacking at the ball and trying to grab at it and suffocate them, and then it would end up in a bucket on the other end. But they just played exactly how they wanted to play. I think, which West denied this after the game, but I think that they took that loss in Morgantown to heart earlier this year, knowing that they completely handed it to them and that they really wanted to return the favor in fifth, third.
West can't say that though. They're playing West Virginia in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. He even said, "I can't." Yeah. It was when he was talking about Edwards. He's like, "We're gonna have to play them again, so I got to be careful about what I'm saying here." So yeah, he's playing the game. He knows what he's doing. Like he's got to worry about giving them bulletin board material for a team that is honestly in shambles right now.
Yeah,
and you don't want to give them anything to play for if they're already just defeated.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they did look like they just weren't having fun at all. There was a point Raekwon Battle only played 23 minutes. There was a point he was just on the end of the bench with a towel over his head, just chilling for a long majority of the second half. Which I can't really blame him. Just as a young person, you come into a situation thinking it's going to be one way, and it goes like in an unprecedentedly bad direction, the complete opposite way, to the point where it's just a dumpster fire nosedive down the entire year. I'm glad that they were able to beat Kansas and have that moment. But I mean, and Coach said it on Thursday. He said this is a preseason top 10 team if they have Coach Huggins. Like the amount of talent that they have with Kirk Risa and Battle and Jesse Edwards and Quinn Slazinski's even shown a lot, especially against Cincinnati. It's a gifted team. It's been a complete wash because of the instability at the coaching position.
I'm okay with it if it means that we got a dub. So, in any case, I don't know. We talked about Day already. Who you want to talk about next?
Oh, Jamil played well, 6 for 6 from the field, 13 points. He made a lot of those like turnaround hook shots that he's missed this year, and that was kind of his go-to shot. Pulled down 3 rebounds, which isn't great for him, but it was mainly because Aziz was pulling down so many. He was 4 for 4. They go a perfect 10 for 10. I know someone pointed that out in the post-game presser. Credit to Dan. It finishes with 17, gets 6 of those at the line. I'm pretty sure all 6 of those came after he went 0 for 2 in his first trip. Then the 3 more times he goes back, he just goes perfect 6 for 6. That is, if Dan Skillings is an 85% free throw shooter, this season could look like 2 or 3 more wins because of just how wild he is driving in the paint and trying to draw fouls. So credit to him for being able to step up and make those.
Going back to Jamil, 2 blocks as well on the day for him. He looked as good as he's looked all season, and I just wonder what he would have been had he gotten the whole non-conference slate to play and kind of touch up on essentially what's become his Achilles heel, which is at least one travel call on trying to make his spin move to the hoop. He gets it almost as often as Brian Threats would get a personal foul on the football field. It's usually once a game and generally comes at inopportune times. So
March of 2024, Brian Threats mention on BCJ YouTube.
Just saying, it happens about as often. And again, at inopportune times. It just reminds me of the same thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's good to see him playing with. I feel like he's playing with as much confidence as he's been playing with all year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's still trending up. I don't think he's peaking by any stretch. So if he can continue to do this, as some of the bigs around the conference are starting to fall to the injury bug, as Hunter Dickinson becomes the most recent hit by Kansas today in their brutal loss to Houston. Houston has lost one of their bigs as well, as their electric freshman went down. He's done for the season. I don't know about Hunter Dickinson yet.
Is it Tugler? Are you talking about Tugler?
Yeah. Is it Tugler or Tugler?
I'm guessing it's Tugler. If it was Tugler, there'd be 2 G's. Yeah. Did you see the video of Dickinson running off the court?
I don't want to hear about enunciation of the English rules of names, because if that was the case, then you'd have ACOC, and it ain't that.
Oh my gosh. You just wanted an opportunity to say ACOC, didn't you?
Always looking for that one.
Yeah, Dickinson immediately grabbed his shoulder and ran off the court in a ton of pain. And then apparently Kevin McCullough didn't play in the second half either, which I'm not sure if that's for an injury or for.
No, that's because you were being blown out. It was 34-6 or something wild.
Yeah.
You weren't coming back on that Houston team.
He played like crap in the first half too. He had a turnover and a foul. That was it. That's his only registered stats. But he's been struggling with the injury bug because, and why we're talking about this so much is because I think if Cincinnati beats West Virginia, they play Kansas. I'm pretty sure that's the most likely scenario is if Cincinnati beats West Virginia, they then play Kansas. So,
well, if Kansas is without McCullough and Dickinson, I think you got probably a little bit more than a puncher's chance against Kansas.
Yeah, but then Johnny Furphy just comes in and hits 7 transition threes, and
Look, there's always one on every team we play. There's always one where they just come out of nowhere and go bananas.
yeah.
And,
Can you click on your Uncle Mike's comment? I can't post
yep.
comments. All of them. You still need to win the Big 12 championship. Unless a bunch of bubble teams, like every bubble team ahead of you, loses in like the first round, you're still going to need basically a Big 12 championship in order to win or in order to get into the tournament.
Yeah, I think that would be taken under consideration if Kansas is playing without Dickinson and without
yeah. So that
McCullough.
Yeah.
That it's not going to count the same as it would otherwise.
Well,
I wouldn't think.
If they're just going off straight quad 1, quad 2, I don't know if they dock for injuries, do they? In the net rankings?
Look, I'm used to the playoffs and whatever sport we're talking about that has to do with Cincinnati, finding a way to hose Cincinnati. So looking at the next player I want to talk about, John Newman, 14 points, second leading scorer today. 7 of 10, 0 for 3 from the 3-point line. At least he only shot 3. 2 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive, ends up with 6. 4 assists for John. He had 2 real quick.
Yeah.
Only 1 turnover, only 1 foul, 2 steals. Hell of a day for him.
Yeah, it was a really good day for him. And he was kind of a key cog in those really good runs that Cincinnati had, and he was making
Agreed.
the necessary pass, or he was getting offensive rebounds in order to finish. But he's just been an integral cog like the entire year. He plays so well defensively. I don't know if a lot of people understand how big of a loss it is for him to run out of eligibility, because there's just not a John Newman in the portal. That's extremely, extremely rare to find. But yeah, he played well, and 14 points, second leading scorer for Cincinnati. I would love to see him chill on 3-point field goals, but I think you're kind of in a position to where you need him to hit a few of those if you're going to have a chance to beat good teams like Kansas and Texas Tech, if that's who they end up
playing. He wasn't taking bad threes. He was open when he was taking the threes.
He's just not a good 3-point shooter at the end of the day.
Correct.
The only good one they have right now is CMOS, and then next it's Jizzle.
I would call CMOS average. 3 of 10 is not good. 3 of 10 is not good.
No,
he's an average 3-point shooter.
He's above average.
Day is below average. 1 of 5 is his average.
Day-Day's a bad 3-point shooter. John is
30%. 30% is not good either, Keegan.
In one game. He just had a 6-game stretch where he hit 40% from 3.
He is on the season. What do you think he's shooting?
30%.
CMOS?
Yeah.
On the season, he is 35.7%. I would call that average for a 3-point shooter.
Yeah. I would like to see him with a full season of knowing his role, because his role is very dependent on what CJ Frederick was doing. And then, more chemistry with Jizzle and Day. I think the potential for offensive firepower next year is pretty high. I just think defensively they're going to have to make some stuff up. But CMOS is a scorer. CMOS is your scorer.
Yes.
Unless they go and get a combo guard, like bucket getter in the portal, which I'm expecting them to try to do, CMOS is going to come back, and I think a lot of people should be happy for him to be that guy.
I'll be ecstatic if he is back as the third best player on this team. I want 2 players to be either on the roster or otherwise to elevate above him, because I think that this team is fantastic if he's your third best player.
Yeah. Third best player?
Yes.
Okay. So not third best scorer.
No, I think that he needs to be all around.
Okay.
The third best player, which is going to also mean that his defense has to uptick.
So is Aziz 1 or 2?
Kind of depends. If he's able to give you offense next year, then he's able to be 1 or 2. But right now, I don't think that Aziz is above him on the roster.
Yeah. CJ, how about CJ Anthony coming in too? Couldn't get a 3. That is funny. CJ Anthony came in and there was 11 seconds left. Wes had to yell his name and say no shots. And he literally went like this. He went, he wanted to go down at the end and just bury a 3 in their face as time expired. Oh gosh.
You mentioned Dan, 17 points, 5 of 8, an efficient day for him. 1 of 3 from 3, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, as you talked about earlier. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers. So his turnover numbers are down. 2 blocks. Those came late, I believe, in back-to-back sequences, if I'm not mistaken, and a steal. But really good game by Dan, as we're used to him scoring in the teens, but this time it comes on only 7 field goals as opposed to 13, 14, 15 field goals.
Yeah, and I think his ability to hit from the line is what's going to elevate him in terms of being like a comfortable leading scorer for UC. That's an area that he struggled, especially in some big situations. But if he's going to be a shooting guard and he's going to be that guy, he's got to be able to hit from the line. And you saw him add 6 more points to his total today. But did you see the exchange when Scott asked Dan about, like, are you looking forward to a senior night kind of thing? And Wes said, I don't think he should be looking forward to a senior night. He needs to be getting drafted.
What a weird question anyway. What are you doing, Scott?
I think it was his like roundabout way of asking if he was going to transfer. Maybe. I don't want to quote Scott at all. But yeah, he has the talent and he's a really, really good basketball player. There's just some fine edges that he needs to figure out to smooth over, and he's gonna hit his stride next year, and he should be the best player on the team next year, regardless of whoever they bring in out of the portal.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I do hope so. But again, another one who I think he needs to figure out some things defensively to be able to add a little bit more there. And we've seen that in spurts, but just I think it's just kind of one of the things that hampers him on offense as well is just the awareness, like what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see where Dan's able to go in that regard. As we're going down, scorers, guys, we haven't talked about. Aziz finishes 4 of 4, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, right on par for his average there. 7 rebounds, 6 of them defensive. 2 fouls, 2 turnovers. Pretty good day for Aziz.
Yeah, and he was getting a lot of the lobs, going up high for rebounds, really fighting with everything he had for rebounds. He had some ill-advised passes that led to some turnovers, which made me wonder why he was trying to make difficult passes at all to drivers down the floor in transition. But he gave you what you expect from him, someone who's going to play with a pretty high motor and try to get rebounds. And then when he can deliver on lobs, or if he gets around the rim, that's what he's going to do. But he's a presence that they had to deal with. And when you have to add that extra inch or 2 inches of arc on your shot, it disrupts everything. And you saw that a couple times today. That led to some West Virginia misses. See what they were on layups.
Well, Jesse Edwards, I can tell you this, finished 8 points, 4 of 7 from the field, only 4 rebounds, all of them offensive, 3 fouls, and 1 block, 1 turnover for Jesse Edwards. But that was a guy who he had a day against Cincinnati.
25 in his first game
West Virginia.
Yeah. West Virginia was 5 for 15 on layups today. Points in the paint, they had 14 of their 56. So when you have a presence like that you have to deal with, it's really, really difficult. And Aziz is he's a monster, dude. Literally and figuratively.
Jizzle, 8 points, 4 of 7 from the field, 0 for 2 behind the arc. 3 offensive rebounds for Jizzle in this one, 3 assists, no turnovers. we continue to see just stacking good games, one after one after one.
Yeah, and it's starting to get into his head that he can create a little bit. You saw some plays where he was trying to put dribble moves on people. I think he hit a step back mid range on one possession, and then he hit a three off of an offensive rebound on another possession. So I think
Yeah, no
of,
threes.
no threes. Maybe it was a long
No,
two. Yeah,
no.
you're right. Yeah, 0 for 2. But outside of like all the skill he has and his natural fear for the game and his competitive nature, he's just a really, really confident basketball player who doesn't think that he can't do anything, even as a true freshman, which has an impact on his performance and how he rubs off on everyone else. I think their continued development over this past month has been pretty good, and that's what makes kind of the fashion with which they're losing more frustrating, because you feel like they're better than when everyone wanted Day benched for Jizzle, but even through all that, they both kept developing and playing good basketball. But then, there's really bad turnovers from everyone, and there's missed free throws and fouling 3-point shooters and stuff like that leads to some losses. So yeah, but he's a really good player. I'm really, really interested to see what West does at the one guard position next year. I think you could see them playing together a decent amount, but if you're going to bring in a scorer, one of them is going to play less minutes. I just think he's going to default to defense and play day a little bit more, especially because the second year jump for JUCO guys is really good. Like in most cases, when a JUCO guy plays at a school and then he goes into a second year, he has a really good year. But that's a position that they're pretty much set in going forward. And then you mix in a scoring guard, a combo guard to that mix next year, and it's going to get interesting.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see what they do with those two guys and getting them minutes, especially if you are going to bring in a guy who's playing at the 2 spot. It's certainly difficult unless you're running really small.
Yeah.
With that combo guard playing at the 3 with them on the court. We'll see. If anybody can do it though, Wes and his 14 different rotations can figure out how to get it done.
Yeah.
And then Josh Reed, 5 points, 2 of 4 from the field, 1 of 2 behind the arc, 3 rebounds, 2 of them offensive, 1 assist, and 2 steals. Josh Reed had a good day defensively, and I saw something from Josh Reed today that I've been begging for, and he was trying to find ways to make cuts to the hoop, so much, in fact, that one of those offensive rebounds led to his bucket down low. But that's what I've wanted to see out of Josh Reed, some type of movement to get to the hoop, because next year with no John Newman, if you want to find ways to get yourself minutes, it's going to have to be because you offer something, anything that represents the heartbeat, a pulse of offense.
Yeah, and he's looked kind of, I don't want to say uncomfortable from 3, but he's just not a knockdown shooter. He has a lot of arc on his shot. But he's provided some really, really good defensive minutes, and I think that's going to get him on the floor next year, kind of as that John Newman protege, you could say. But he's the cutting to the hoop was definitely a good revelation. And he played a solid game in the sparing minutes that he got, but he's kind of stepped up in a lot of areas this year, and he's provided some consistent minutes in a lot of key games.
I just think that when you're bringing in, I would assume that they're going to bring in somebody who's going to be a big wing as one of their transfers in. I'd imagine that he's going to have to offer more to find anything that resembled his minutes this season. Because you're going to also have trying to figure out how to get Rayvon involved. If you're going to see any minutes from either of the Tylers, that remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. For me anyway, unless it's just coming in as a defensive specialist in key situations. I don't know that I give him a ton of minutes next season unless he's starting to evolve more offensively.
Yeah. It could just, he wasn't a highly heralded prospect coming out of high school. I know Coach Miller had said before that the first time he seen him, he wasn't extremely impressed. And then he kept on watching and kept on watching, and he was continually more impressed, which earned him a scholarship offer. But it's kind of just a testament to where Cincinnati basketball is at. They're steadily going upward. It's not a rapid rise to the top, but Wes is kind of developing the program that he wants, and there's going to be a lot of talent involved. And if you don't offer that, it's kind of a cutthroat game of you're just not going to play. And the vision for what your career was might be different when they bring in a wing. A lot of people assumed Rayvon was going to play this season and contribute. No, he's redshirting,
Right.
which is just the case for a lot of people. But I mean, if he can take that step forward offensively, give some danger on 3-point shooting, or just get kind of close to the hoop, get some floaters, some layups, and that type of stuff, he's going to bring a lot of value based off how he plays defensively. So I wouldn't rule that out, because he's kind of shown in his past that he can knock down shots at a high rate in some games. And he's a Bearcat that Wes Miller knows fits in this program, and that's really valuable.
Well, Chad at one point said that he will have 1,000 points as a Bearcat. With 62 this season, he's got a long way to go.
Chad. Oh wow, what a take.
Well, that's one that sticks out. In any case, again, your final 92-56. Cincinnati with 1.46 points per possession. It's pretty good. They scored on 66.7% of their possessions. Also pretty good. I don't know. They looked like I wanted to see this game so bad from at some point. It sucks that it happened all the way at the end, because I think this would have been a game that you could have built a shit ton of confidence on earlier in the conference slate.
Yeah.
But now he's.
I can't tell if that's Chad or Dave.
I mean, if we're going back to this comment where he was upset about what I said about CMOS, it's definitely Chad listening from the volleyball game.
That's funny. 1,000 points in the AAC. Oh yeah.
I don't know.
The most similar game this season to that one is probably Georgia Tech, where it just felt like there was nothing the other team could do to get anything going offensively, and everything was working offensively for Cincinnati. And I hadn't really seen a game like that since, because even when they beat BYU, when they beat Texas Tech, when they beat the UCF twice, it wasn't like they were knocking down shots at a crazy clip or anything. They were just kind of limiting their defensive looks, forcing them to have off nights and make uncharacteristic mistakes, and then getting the rebounds and making the necessary shots. But this was just an onslaught of offense, and everything was going. Transition points everywhere around the hoop. The lobs, I don't think they missed a lob today. That's the most insane stat.
There was one errant pass where it was early on. They were trying to get it down low, and I think Jesse Edwards just jumped up and snatched it.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I'm with you. They finally figured it out in the last
31. They got
game
it
of
31.
18 second chance points though on 11 offensive rebounds. Also a really good stat. Just all in all, I would have loved if this team would have focused more on the points in the paint more this season than trying to get 30 3-point shots up, especially when they're not good at shooting 3-pointers. But the regular season is over. Cincinnati finishes 11th in the conference. I think that's officially official. I think that's been officially official since earlier, and it looks like they're going to be facing off against West Virginia in the first round on Tuesday. So anything else you got on this one then, Keegan?
No, I'm looking forward to going to Kansas City, covering the Big 12 tournament. I mean, they're in a good spot to get at least one win, and then you move on and you see what happens. They're taking momentum in, and they're playing a team that has none. So you just have to take care of business and not turn the ball over and play solid defense. And then the Cincinnati team's going to rebound, and then you just have to use your confidence and momentum to try to hit some shots. So, yeah, but I'll be in Kansas City. I'm looking forward to it. Would have definitely preferred to leave Tuesday and watch a Wednesday game instead of leaving Monday and watching a Tuesday game. But if that means I get Joe's barbecue sooner, not going to complain at all.
So. Sounds about right, especially as I had to sit here and listen and watch you eat food for the first, 10 minutes before we even started this podcast.
Me and Aaron sat here in silence while I ate a protein bar covered in peanut butter.
I shook my head at you the whole time. Did want to offer up that Cincinnati baseball did open up their conference slate against Kansas State. Losers on Friday 4-0, and I believe they are live right now. I think that game started at 5:00.
It's 2-0 Kansas State in the bottom of the second.
There you go. So still, obviously, plenty of baseball in that one for the Bearcats to try and come out on top, and they'll finish up that series tomorrow in Manhattan. Tomorrow's game at 2. So, other than that, anything else you want to drop here?
Nope. First regular season in the books for me on the beat. I'm very, very grateful to have the opportunity. So it's been a blast, and I look forward to the future.
Well, since Keegan won't give his own shameless plugs, he will have an article on the game today up later on BCJ. He did have the pressers on the YouTube channel already. So if you haven't checked those out, go and check those out. Some good stuff from Wes, who gets emotional. It's not nearly quite as much as Jason Kelce earlier this week, but he does get emotional in his own right and then tries to hide it by not talking the rest of the press conference. So
yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, thanks again to Galactic Fried Chicken for sponsoring this show as always. Thanks to Keegan Nicholson for filling in for Chad while he is out doing the volleyball dad thing. But Chad and I will be back here tomorrow night to discuss the Big 12 first end of the season Big 12 recap before we start the Big 12 tournament. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow in this space. But thanks to all of you who tuned in. Thanks to who listened. And we'll see you then. See ya!